कुंज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारे गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारे यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Shri Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shri Srimati Divine Grace Abhaya Charanaravindha Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की भूमि वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की द्वारकापुरी धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की गंगामय यमुनामयी की भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की समावेत भक्त वृंद की all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuvunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vidamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Rupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Devaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Welcome all of you for the Srimad Bhagavatam class today. We are reciting this verse, 4th canto, 14th chapter, text number 41. Brahmana samadrikshanto dīnānām samupekshakah sravate brahmatasyapi भिन्न भाण्डात् पयो यथा ब्राह्मण समदृक्षान्तो दीनानां समुपेक्षकः स्रवते ब्रह्म तस्यापि भिन्न भाण्डात् पयो यथा ब्राह्मण समदृक्षान्तो दीनानां समुपेक्षकः स्रवते ब्रह्म तस्यापि भिन्न भाण्डात् पयो यथा. ब्राह्मण समदृक्षान्तो स्रवते ब्रह्म तस्यापि भिन्न भाण्डात् पयो यथा. ब्राह्मण समदृक्षान्तो दीनानां समुपेक्षितः भाण्डात् पयो यथा. Mataji, Brahmana, a Brahmana, Samadrik, equipoised, Shantaha, peaceful, Deenanam, the poor, Samupekshakaha, grossly neglecting, Savate, diminishes, Brahma, spiritual power, Tasya, his, Api, certainly, Bhinna Bhandat, from a cracked pot, Payaha, water, Yatha, just as. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. The great sages began to think that although a Brahmana is peaceful and impartial, because he is equal to everyone, it is still not his duty to neglect poor humans. By such neglect, a Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes, just as water kept in a cracked pot leaks out. Purport. Brahmanas, the topmost section of human society, are mostly devotees. They are generally unaware of the happenings within the material world because they are always busy in their activities for spiritual advancement. Nonetheless, when there is a calamity in human society, they cannot remain impartial. If they do not do something to relieve the distressed condition of human society, it is said that due to such neglect, their spiritual knowledge diminishes. Almost all the sages go to the Himalayas for their personal benefit. But Prahlad Maharaj said that he did not want liberation alone. He decided to wait until he was able to deliver all the fallen souls of the world. In that elevated condition, the Brahmanas are called Vaishnavas. There are two types of Brahmanas, namely Brahman Pandita and Brahman Vaishnava. A qualified Brahmana is naturally very learned, but when his learning is advanced in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes a Brahmana Vaishnava. Unless one becomes a Vaishnava, one's perfection of Brahminical culture is incomplete. The saintly persons considered very wisely that although King Vena was very sinful, was born in a family descending from Dhruva Maharaj, therefore the semen in the family must be protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava. As such, the sages wanted to take some steps to relieve the situation. For want of a king, everything was being disturbed and turned topsy-turvy. Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Vasudhara Maharani ki. The essence of this verse and purport is this. It says that although a Brahmana is, peacefully situated, although he is equal to all living entities, he doesn't do any pakshapat, partiality. Still, in the disturbing situation of the outside world, if a Brahmana remains upekshakaha, means he rejects the material world, thinking that everything is horrible in the material world. Everybody is in Maya, and the whole world is in state of terrible turmoil. So better just switch off yourself to the material world and do your own bhajan and go back to Godhead. Like that, sometimes some devotees think like that. So if a person avoids doing some welfare work for the suffering souls and switches off his connection with them, then such a Brahmana's knowledge is like a water kept in a cracked pot, which gradually leaks, like that he says. So when you hear this, you may get a little frightened, because all of us know Bharat Maharaj wanted to show compassion, and in the name of compassion he got entangled, becoming a deer in the next life. After hearing that pastime, sometimes it appears to us it's better to not be like that, not become attracted by anything in this world. Don't show compassion to anything. Better keep away from Maya and do your own thing and go back to Godhead. That kind of thought process may come in the minds of seriously practicing devotees sometimes. But here it is said, by doing that, there is another problem. What is the another problem? We can become hard-hearted by not showing compassion to the suffering souls, and by not doing welfare activities for them, we can develop a hard-heartedness, which is also detrimental for the inoffensive chanting of the holy name and returning back to Godhead. Oh, then you may wonder, no? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like you are caught up between devil and deep sea. Sometimes an ant is sitting in a log of wood, both sides there is fire. Similarly, if you go out to preach in the material world, we may get entangled. And if you don't preach, put a wall around yourself and remain isolated from the material world, do your own bhajan, then also you may develop hard-heartedness. Then what do we do? Where do we go? So that has to be understood while discussing this verse today. You will see traditionally in India, the Brahmanas who actually did not show compassion to the lower classes, like those who are the fourth order, which is Shudras or Antyajas, those who are outside that, namely Chandalas, Amlechas or Yavanas. So the Brahmanas in India, at one point of time, they considered them untouchables. And due to that kept them away from practice of religion, which led to many complications. One complication is people got converted to so many other practices, religions, where they started drinking, smoking, and getting degraded. That's one of the complications that happened. Another thing that happened is the Brahmanas who kept them away, they became very proud because they became hard-hearted. They naturally became proud. We are very advanced, we are very pure, and you are very impure. Chichi, don't come near. That kind of untouchability came. So then the lower class became rejected by them. So the lower class of people lost the opportunity for advancing in spiritual path uh, because the Brahmanas did not have proper information. They thought either you are advanced and pure in your culture, otherwise you are rejected. That kind of thing they did. And this brought about a turmoil within Sanatana Dharma itself, due to which there were clashes between privileged classes, higher class, and then downtrodden and lower classes. And that clash led to many things. For example, Buddhism is an offshoot of Sanatana Dharma also. So Jainism is also offshoot of Sanatana Dharma. When the Vaishyas, they actually became very prominent in the Jainism. It was very much about austerity. Buddhism is very much about non-violence. Actually, Prabhupada says Kshatriya should not become non-violent, but he should use violence for the right cause. That is Kshatriya. When Ashoka becomes non-violent totally, when foreign invaders come into the country, then you are non-violent, then you can't give protection to the people. So there has to be violence used for protection of the country. So taking non-violence as the Paro Dharma, topmost Dharma, Buddhism came. Similarly, even today you will find, Jains devoting huge amount of wealth for building temples. You will see that. They spend a major portion of their earning, and there is a lot of renunciation, focus, upavas, doing upavas, and the sadhus are very highly renounced, and they walk barefoot, and they don't kill the germs. Many things they do. The purpose of renunciation ultimately is not to negate the negative, but to engage in the positive devotional service, which is not often totally understood. So in this way, when any of the lower classes are not properly valued and respected, then all complications came in our country because of that. So because the Brahmana class of people are supposed to compassionately administer the wisdom of the Vedas to the people at lower ranks in a way that they can comprehend. Because the Vedas say that anybody cannot chant the Vedic mantras like Gayatri Mantra. Nowadays you hear Gayatri Mantra, people playing recordings outside. It is not supposed to be chanted aloud. It will not have any potency by chanting aloud. And also not any Tom, Dick and Harry can chant it. It has to be a proper Yajnopavita Dharanam ceremony should be there, and it should be given, it's a second, like a Dvija we say. There is a Vedic rule to be followed for that. So this is another problem that came. Some people said, oh, we are lower class and we are not allowed to come into the temple. And then Subramanya Bharati, great poet, he told them, come here, I will give you sacred thread. Many unqualified people were given sacred thread, which is also another big mess. And Gandhi made Hari Jans, like that he made some people label them. As Gandhi's idea was Hari means Lord Vishnu, Jan means people, Vishnu Jan or Hari Jan. With that goal he made that to give them a privileged position. But the real privileged position is when you make the living entity chant the holy name and eat only prasadam, give up killing of innocent creatures, worship the deity form of the Lord. Without teaching these things, simply rubber stamping somebody as a Vishnu Jan Harijan doesn't help them. It is simply a superficial rubber stamp, that's all. So, superficially rubber stamping unqualified people is one mistake, and the Brahmanas not handing over the wisdom in a way that the younger classes can comprehend, and not handing over and becoming hard-hearted, that is another mistake. So both are mistakes. So sometimes in Manu Samhita it is said, it is better that you keep the knowledge of the Vedas with yourself and not hand it over to a choir's fool who is ineligible, unqualified, uninterested, uninquisitive. Such people don't give it. It is better for you to die with knowledge and not give it to unqualified person. Now this can be misunderstood. How it can be misunderstood? Somebody may say, see, here it says that don't give knowledge, so we don't give knowledge to anybody. Knowledge is monopoly of we Brahmanas only. One may keep like that. But what it exactly means is that if somebody is qualified, he should be given the knowledge. For example, Satyakama Jabala, when he went to the Guru's ashrama, the Guru asked him, what is your Gotram? He couldn't say. Okay, ask your mother and come. So he went to ask his mother. His mother said, oh, I was born in a very, very poverty-stricken situation. I became orphan. No mother, no father, no relatives to take care of me, protect me. I didn't have even food and clothing. While living such a pathetic life, I had to depend on some men who would give me some money to support me. In this way, my child, I don't know to whom you were born. I don't know. Like that she said. And the boy went to Guruji and exactly spelled out the same thing. Whatever, this is what my mother said. And Guru said, now I don't need your Gotram, you are a Brahmana, he said. Because you spoke the truth. Speak the truth. And in this way, he could give him knowledge also. So, you will see that if even if a person is born in a lower family, like Bhagavatam says, Kirata Honandra Pulinda Pulakasha Abhira Shumba Yavana Kashadya Yen Papa Yadapashraya Shraya Shuddhyanti Tasmai Papa Vishnave Namah. There's a long list of classes given. The Greeks and the Huns are the Greeks, the Germans, the Turkish, the Mongolian, all those names are mentioned, the Chinese. So all these different people may have habits of, eating certain kinds of foods. Somebody is eating dog, somebody is eating cow, somebody is eating, different kinds of things. Basically, what they put in the mouth, based on that, their class is made. Somebody eats dog, is called Chandala. Somebody eats cow, beef, is called Lecha or Yavana, like that. So, now it's considered abominable. They are not put in the top 4 classes. They are outside the 4 classes, Antijas. But even they can chant the names of Vishnu or Krishna and they can become purified. It says, Shuddhyanti Tasmai, it says. They can become purified. So this is not the only statement. There are many places in the various literatures. One more verse I'll tell you. Devai vidantati taranti cha deva mayam Sri Shudrahuna Shabara Abhipapa Jivaha Yadyadbhuta Kramapara Yada Shila Shikshaha Teriyang Jana Kimu Api Shrutadharanaye. See, this verse says, Devai vidanti atitaranti cha deva mayam. Atitaranti means even very degraded people in this world can cross beyond the samsara sagar. And then he says, gives a long list, Sri Shudra, Shabara, Abhi Papa Jiva, he says. All the Papa Jivas also can go. How? Further, they have to do only one thing. Yadyad Bhuta Krama Parayana Shila Shiksha, he says. Krama Parayana means they should adopt Bhakti Yoga practice by taking shelter of a Vaishnava Guru, chanting Hare Krishna, eating prasad, worshipping deity, hearing the scriptures. Even the most degraded people can be made most exalted. This verse says that. And there are many, many verses in many Puranas like this. So, and many people do not consult these kind of verses in various Puranas, but they stick on to the idea that, we are Brahmanas, we are the top class, and it's like a privileged class. And the result, now as Kali Yuga progressed, many of the Brahmanas are studying only material science now, Jada Vidya. They are only studying Jada Padartha. Bhumi Rapa Anala Vayu Kam Mano Buddhir Ahankar. They don't study anything beyond that. But you can see anywhere, you ask any Brahmana boy, what are you studying? They'll say computer science, electronics, telecommunication, mechanical engineering. These are the things they are studying. Where are the Brahmanas who are sitting and studying the Vedic literature, first of all, and then digesting it, relishing it, and distributing it? The Prabhupada says the Brahmanas as a class, they come in a family where the lineage is very powerful due to the Saptarishis when it is coming down. So when they are coming a certain Gotra, they have intelligence, but that intelligence is now misused for studying mundane science, material science, Prabhupada says. So therefore they get very good marks in material subjects. Any subject you give, they'll get good marks. And then they go abroad, make a lot of wealth, money, but their knowledge is neither utilized to deliver them, nor is it becoming distributed for the welfare of the people. Think about it. How unfortunate. So, therefore, this verse gives a warning. Now, even as devotees, all of us, you will find there are two types of devotees. One type of devotees say that, you see, better, Kali Yuga is very, very dangerous. When they look at the glitter and glamour of the outside world now, people are in so much Maya. So when they see, Prabhupada says in one of his purports, women are scantily dressed, and the men are keeping long beards and long hair, and and also they hardly wash their clothes, they hardly take a bath, they are smoking and drinking into drugs and so many things like that. So when one looks at the world outside, what could be the response from our side? If a devotee is a neophyte devotee, one may become attracted to Maya and be carried away by Maya. Just like you find sometimes in America also, Prabhupada saw those who came to Krishna consciousness, again if they came across Maya, they blooped. Bloop, Prabhupada would say that. So one can again become attracted and be dragged away. Like one time Prabhupada was observing that many devotees are not in Mangalarati. He asked, where are they? And devotees said, Prabhupada, nowadays they are going to permit rooms and beer bars in the night to perform Govindam with instruments and everything. And they come at 11:30, 12 at night, they said. Of course, not a one devotee, a group of devotees would go. And this became a very famous song because of George Harrison's singing in that Radha Krishna temple CD, So devotees would be invited, 8-10 devotees would go to a big star hotel, beer bar or permit room, and they would perform this in the night, late night, and then they would come back at 11:30, 12. Prabhupada immediately said, all devotees should retire to bed before 9:30, 10. And they have to come for Mangalarati, he said. And then devotees started coming next day for Mangalarati. And then Prabhupada told them, don't go to those places. They are not good for you. Because your old vasanas will return back. It will produce cravings. Even if you don't indulge, it will produce cravings. When you go to those same places where you committed sin. You were indulging in these habits before, now you have given them up. Don't again go back to them like a dog's tail. You've seen dog's tail? A dog's tail, if you put it in a pipe and then you remove the pipe, it will go back like this again. So don't go back to the old habits. Stay protected. Prabhupada gave them a sort of warning. But devotees said, but Prabhupada, we have to preach. Otherwise, how will we make devotees? Prabhupada said, that's not the right place to preach. You can preach during the day by distributing books. But don't go to those very unholy and unclean places. He sort of warned them. So, those people who are careless may become captivated by glitter and glamour of Maya and be dragged by Maya down. That's one possibility. And those who are not so neophyte, but those who are little more advanced, when they see Maya, what is their response? They develop disgust. Disgust means hatred. They will say, look at these fellows, what they are doing. See the type of dress they are wearing. See the type of cars, flashy cars in which they are going. See, the men and women are mixing so freely. So somebody may criticize them and develop a hatred for the people in Maya. And one of the reasons for the hatred is that sometimes such neophyte devotees feel deprived that they can't do those things. That is also one of the possibility. Disgust, actually, attachment and aversion are two sides of the same coin, you see. If disgust arises in the heart, likely that we have attraction for the same thing. So, they may want to do, but now they cannot do. Earlier they were doing, now Prabhupada has bound them by his instructions. You cannot do this. Then they will say, that, see how they are eating, see how they are enjoying. One may say that, because one subtly has a desire to enjoy in a similar way. So, and that disgust makes one's heart very hard. Because attachment and aversion, both of them make the heart hard. See, Dhritarashtra had attachment to Duryodhana, so his heart became hard and he wanted to crush Bhima. Correct, no? Kritadyuti's co-wives, they developed hard-heartedness because of seeing Kritadyuti getting attention of King Chitraketu. So they killed that child. You will see that. Kaikeyi became very hard-hearted towards Rama, sending him to forest for 14 years because she had attachment to Bharat. You will see wherever there is attachment, then proportionately there has to be aversion on someone or something else. You will see that. So, similarly, we may have attachment to Maya secretly in the heart, and that may come out as aversion for people who are indulging in Maya. So, this is also a dangerous thing. One should not develop disgust, because the disgust has two problems. One problem is heart becomes hard and one cannot chant the holy names feelingly. Like, imagine you are going in the train, you see somebody is drinking Pepsi, somebody is eating bhel, somebody is eating vada pav, somebody is eating bhaji, somebody is eating pakoda, they are eating samosa, mungfali, everything they are buying and eating, whatever comes, chikki, everything there. So you may be criticizing to dozens of devotees, you may say, I saw this fellow is doing like this, they are eating this, they are drinking this. Because the person who has been doing it all the while before, now when he sees those items coming, if any of you have eaten bhel before, now it's full of onion and it just pierces the nose. When it comes now, you may hate people who eat it because we also used to eat it in case you were eating. And one feels that I also want it, but I am not allowed to take it. So that kind of hatred makes our heart hard is one thing. And also the old attachments get revived as vasanas by associating with them. So this is also not good. Then what is to be done? Therefore, you will see our tendency in such situation is to give up such people and put a wall around ourselves, stay within your home or within your temple and just Krishna Rama Govinda do bhajan and go back to Godhead. That's what many people think they should do, which is criticized in this verse. This verse says that if you do jana aparad means when you see the common people, karmis whom we call, indulging in materialistic activities, if you develop hatred for them, that is also one type of aparad. One should not hate them because they are all whose parts and parcels? Krishna's parts and parcels. If you become sympathetic to them, compassionate to them, then our heart also becomes softened. And they are also likely to be a little more receptive by your being humble and tolerant and kind. And you know that what they are doing is wrong. You are not interested in hating them and throwing them in a dark well. Rather, you wish to see them come out of those bad habits and be connected to Krishna consciousness. Correct? And that's what precisely Srila Prabhupada did. When he went to the West, he was very tolerant. There was one pastime you will read, Morning Star Ranch. This is one group of hippies, Morning Star Ranch. So Prabhupada went to the field. They were living in farm. So when Prabhupada went to the farm, he was shocked because all the men were having not a single piece of dress in their body. They were completely nude, totally nude, all grown-up men. And somebody took Prabhupada there to give lecture for them. Prabhupada thought, what lecture can he give for these fellows? And then Prabhupada asked, so what do you do? Prabhupada asked, what is the goal of your life? He asked the question, first question. They said, to produce potatoes, they were saying. Because that's what they were doing in the farm. They were producing potatoes. Prabhupada said, that is all right. That is a profession. But I am asking, what is the ultimate goal of your life? Nobody could say. And still Prabhupada gave a lecture. to them. He didn't even look at their body, but he gave a lecture to them, and one fellow became Hare Krishna from that. He became proper devotee. Of course, he started wearing dhoti kurta, everything after that. Uh, yeah, from that. So that devotee says that now I am looking back with the crowd of people I was living there, how fallen we were at that time. Prabhupada was so merciful. He came to even such a group of people like us, and and he says to people like Prabhupada, they don't finger point our degradation. Rather, he was in a mood of uplifting us. Uh, so if somebody has fallen in a ditch, do you ridicule them, or laugh at them, or criticize them, or condemn them, denounce them, or you give a helping hand and uplift them? That is a Vaishnava. So, and also Prabhupada tolerated many things. You all know that in the fridge where Sali Agarwal's house, there was also meat and potatoes or tomatoes kept in the same fridge. But Prabhupada tolerated. So he had a lot of tolerance. He had compassion, he had tolerance. Not that Prabhupada did not criticize them. Prabhupada criticized the hippies and criticized the Western culture for doing abortion, for killing millions of cows, for drug addiction. He criticized. But even though he criticized them, he didn't discard them and return back to India. Rather, he stayed in the midst of them. Uh, and, uh, and by staying in the midst of them, he administered the medicine of the holy name, chanting of the holy name, and teaching them the philosophy gradually. One of Prabhupada's god brothers was telling one of the disciples of Prabhupada when they came to India, the god brother was saying, see, Swami Maharaj could go and live with those hippies, yeah, and all those people now. I could not go because, my level of consciousness doesn't match with theirs. I can't live with such kinds of people. Our life, Vaishnava life, is a very quality life. So I decided not to go and preach in such countries. I remained in India. Like that he was telling. So his Holiness Sasvas Maharaj later on gave a comment. He said that it makes it appear that as if our Prabhupada was able to mix with such quality people. That is actually a kind of offensive thought process. Actually speaking, Lord Shiva also is very exalted, but he goes and lives with ghosts and spirits in the crematorium, isn't it? Similarly, Prabhupada is personally very exalted, but the exalted Vaishnava means his degree of compassion also should be very high. Therefore, he could go and live in the midst of them. And living in the midst of them, he was not indulging in what they are indulging. Rather, he made them give up. Somebody was commenting one of the Ramakrishna Mission Swamis, when Prabhupada met in America, he was telling, Swamiji, if you wish to preach in this country, you may have to wear pant shirt, and you may have to learn how to use fork and spoon and all that. And Prabhupada said, why should I? I will teach them the Vedic culture. How to wear dhoti kurta, how to wear tilak, how to wear kantimala, and how to use hand and eat. And Prabhupada did that. He didn't just say that. So did he uplift them or not? So that is the meaning of a Vaishnava compassion. You can see that. Actually, in our Sampradaya, if you see, our Gaur Krishna Babaji, he was very humble but disgusted. Till now, I have been speaking about the traditional Indian Brahmanas who got into the mode of pride and disgust. Pride and disgust is useless. Whereas Gaur Krishna Babaji was humble but disgusted. He made a statement. He said, I am not eligible to deliver all these fellows who are absorbed in Maya. So let me just chant, sitting in the dham. So they are called Bhajanandis. See, Bhajanandi is not criticized in the Shastra. There are two types of people, Bhajanandi and Goshtyanandi. So Bhajanandi sits in the holy place and they will chant all life. Practically in a day, 3 lakh names or 2 lakh names they may chant. And Goshtyanandi is one who engages in preaching, going out. But who can be a Bhajanandi? Can anybody be Bhajanandi? Can any of us say that I am also going to take the bead bag and chant 2 lakh names every day like Haridas Thakur? Can we do that? So therefore, Bhajanandis Thakur says, somebody told him, see, you are such a great preacher, but your Guru Maharaj was such sitting in the dham and chanting. He was only Bhajanandi, but you are a great Goshtyanandi. So Bhajanandis Thakur corrected that person. What are you talking? He said, My Guru Maharaj is like a motor and I am like the fan. Like this fan is rotating now, but it is being operated by a motor. So motor is stationary and the fan is moving. So Goshtanandi is like the fan. And my Guru is like a motor who is giving me the potency and the Shakti to preach by his instruction. Because he instructed me, I am preaching. So Bhajanandis, how are they helping the world? They are chanting the holy name, and the purity and sanctity and the holiness that emanates from them exudes and permeates all living entities and brings about a great influence in the world. Just like when Buddha used to walk in the forest, 50 miles radius, there can be no violence happening there. I heard that when a tiger is chasing after a deer very, very fastly, if they come into that radius of Buddha's presence, 50 miles radius, suddenly the tiger will forget to catch the deer, chase the deer, and both of them will be walking, chatting with each other, coolly walking. It will give up its violence, it is said. So is it not very great? Look at the compassion of Buddha. But a greater compassion than Buddha's compassion is what Lord Chaitanya did. He didn't make the tiger give up chasing after deer. He made them dance together. Isn't it? That is even greater compassion also. And he made them chant the holy names also. Isn't it? So, in this way, you will see that Bhajananandi may have a disgust for the material world, but his disgust is not accompanied by pride. He is personally very humble. Therefore, Bhajananandi is also delivered from this world back home, back to Godhead. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, my Guru Maharaj um, actually was humble and disgusted, but as far as I am concerned, I am a fighter, he said. Therefore, I cannot keep quiet. Therefore, he ordered me to preach, and then he established the mathas, and many things he did. For example, it was during the British rule, India was in during his times, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur went back to Godhead in 1936. So, you can imagine from the 1980s, 1970, 1980, in those periods up to 1936, if you see, this is a period when we were under foreign rule. But still he made diorama shows in display in Calcutta. Thousands and thousands of people came to see diorama shows of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, and philosophical dioramas. It was very innovative, colorful dioramas display. He got a very huge car, taking it to the village to distribute books. People would come to see the car and they'll purchase a book and go. Yeah, he was doing many things. Yeah. In his temple matas, he arranged for chairs in the temple hall for the viceroy and all his British men to come and sit because they are not used to sitting on the ground. So arranged for the chairs. And he would give them lecture in English, Victorian English. You will see that his language was very advanced. Even foreigners could come and learn English from him. He presented in a very powerful manner, in a very convincing manner to them. So, he did many revolutionary things, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, preaching the message to all kinds of people. And he started 64 mathas in his times, spreading it all over the country. And our Srila Prabhupada went, just like we say, if a kangaroo jumps 4 feet, the kangaroo's baby will jump 16 feet. You say, like that Prabhupada, being a very eminent disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, took this message far and wide all over the world. So, exhibiting such great compassion. So, now we may have a question. See, wow, who is Prabhupada and who am I? We are so small and tiny and we are like a tiny spark. We are not like the sun. We can get extinguished if we too much, in the name of compassion, go out in the world and everything. People think like that. But therefore, some devotees have a tendency to isolate themselves. And while isolating themselves, they tend to think that we should study the Shastras more deeply and chant more rounds, and purify ourselves first. First become a pure devotee and then we will preach. When will you become pure devotee and when will you preach? Ask yourself. It's like saying, let the ocean waves subside, then I will take a bath. Ocean waves will never subside and you will never take a bath. You will be stinking only, you will never take bath. So along with the ocean waves only, you have to take bath. Similarly, we have to simultaneously do both, practicing and preaching. Therefore, Janma Sardhaka Kori Kara Para Upakar, it is said. At the same time, although we should not isolate ourselves from the external world, we can insulate ourselves from the external world. How do you insulate yourself? That means you go into the outside world, distribute Prabhupada books, do Harinam Sankirtan, meet the people, make them life members, distribute prasadam, celebrate Damodar festival in different homes, go and distribute Bhagavad Gitas in the schools, go and conduct seminars in the corporate companies, and go to the schools and teach small children values and spirituality and everything. Keep doing these things, but don't take their association. Give association. It's like one-way traffic. Give association, don't take association. So that we have to learn how to, that is the meaning of insulation. Insulating ourselves means, insulator, when you have an insulator, it doesn't give you shock. Correct, no? Electric shock you don't get when there's an insulator. Just like you want to touch some electric socket or something, you wear a chappal. Without chappal, if you touch it, you may get a big shock. Correct, no? The same manner, if you try to deal with Maya, one can get a shock from Maya. So we have to insulate ourselves by, how do we insulate ourselves? By rising early in the morning and doing the morning program, chanting, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in association of devotees, part of the day. In America, I heard that in many temples, till 1 o'clock, devotees are in the temple, doing some indoor services and the morning program, everything. Then they go out at 1 and come back at 8 at night. So 7 hours they go. In some places they go at 12 and come back at 7. And then they join the Gaur Aarti, like that. I heard, yeah. So they go for like 6-7 hours out. Part of the day spent for your development, spiritual development. Another part of the day go out and reach out to the suffering souls. And that will actually make us develop compassion. And one more thing happens, when you don't show such compassion as it is said here, our Shastric study will become very theoretical. And we will be very unrealistic. We will be very impractical. Because we just don't know what is happening outside. The outside world. Do we want to become irrelevant to people? Sometimes people think, oh, this knowledge is so sublime. Oh, how can the fools understand outside? Don't throw pearls to swine. That's a saying in English. People say, this is like pearl, like scripture, Bhagavatam. How can the people understand? So we can't preach these things to them. Like that people think. So we don't go out. But if you are not going to go out, gradually you will become extinguished or extinct. Extinct means you will become irrelevant to the society. You will become obsolete. And all your knowledge, what is the purpose of accumulating knowledge? It's like a lamp kept in a pot. It cannot give light to anybody. So if we have to give light to the world, we have to confront the public. Go out in the market, distribute books, meet the people, let them ask you challenging questions. You answer them. Then only you know what is going on in their heads. And you will at least make an effort to make the philosophy, bring it down in a way that common people can understand, which Prabhupada did. Prabhupada went to the West. He made the philosophy understandable to people. Is it not true? Therefore, his books are so nice. So, that's the main theme that is being touched here. So he says here, Brahmana samadrakshanto dinanam samupekshakaha sravate brahmadasyapi vinna bhandat payo yatha. The great sages began to think that although a Brahmana is peaceful and impartial, because he is equal to everyone, it is still not his duty to neglect poor humans. By such neglect, a Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes, just as water kept in a cracked pot leaks out. Like for example, Bharat Maharaj is showing compassion to the deer is not wrong, but the matter became wrong when the deer was protected at a very tender stage when it cannot protect itself. That was right. But later, after the deer grew up, Bharat Maharaj should have left the deer in the forest, which he did not do. He was holding on to the deer, and by that time he had developed attachment, and that was the mistake. So therefore, we also have to help the people uh, of the world who are suffering, but we should not allow their bad qualities to percolate into our system when we are preaching to such people. Like we are going to many colleges and preaching to the college students. And college students bring so many dirty problems. They have some affairs with some girl, and they come and reveal their problems to the sadhus. And they also have bad habits of smoking, drinking, and so many habits. Uh, so if we allow their problems to percolate into our head, then our purity will be lost. So we have to actually, uh, like a sun absorbs urine but doesn't get contaminated. And that is the same way we have to give them the transcendental wisdom and help them chant the holy name and get the divine knowledge and get purified, and not allow ourselves to get putrefied. So one has to be very careful about that in preaching. So therefore, it's like a kind of, it's like a war. In war you use two things. You have a sword in the hand, and in this hand you have shield. Yeah, like that you are fighting with this. In case they show their sword, you show your shield. Correct, no? So shield represents safeguarding our Krishna consciousness, and sword represents entering into the material world and preaching, preaching and making more and more devotees. So both we have to do. Preach and make more devotees, at the same time shield yourself against impurities. Remain protected. And that kind of preacher is like a very great soldier or a warrior. In San Jose, they distribute books every weekend. So they call it weekend warriors. You know that? They're called Sankirtan warriors. Why are they called warriors? Because warriors mean they have to defend themselves, protect themselves also. And they have to, take the sword and proceed ahead in preaching and making devotees. So you become like them, or you make them like you? If you become like them, that means you lost the battle. They have spoiled you. Or you made them become Krishna conscious like you. That means you uplifted them. It's like a man is drowning. You give a hand because he's crying. You give a hand. So he pulls you into water. What is the use? Then you also got drowned. In the name of preaching, one can get drowned also. Or if you find the current is very strong and that fellow is struggling and I also don't know swimming so much, what you can do? Find out a tree nearby and put a rope around the tree and then throw the rope. Then you can pull him. Don't give your hand, give the rope. Of course, rope means after tying to the tree, then give. So what is that tree? That is Sri Prabhupada. Prabhupada and ISKCON and devotees. So very strongly situate yourself within ISKCON and then you throw the rope for saving the people. So we should be surrounded by Hari Guru Vaishnavas in their powerful association, daily attending the morning program and studying the Bhagavatam, performing our chanting, eating only prasad, increasing our purity, strength and inner core faith. Up with all these things, then saving the suffering souls will be meaningful. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Can I take one question? Anybody? No questions? Yeah, yes, Prabhu. Give the mic to him. There is one behind also, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat, Prabhuji. It was a nice class, Prabhuji, with all real-time examples. So we were able to connect it nicely. So my question is, Prabhuji, many times we heard that, we can give Krishna, like devotees can give Krishna only when they have love for Krishna. So as we are a practicing sadhaka, so we don't have that much, we developed a love for Krishna. So how we can do the preaching?
Actually, even if we haven't developed love for Krishna, we can teach them things which we have understood. Basic things we can teach. Can't we tell people that you are not the body or the soul? Can't we tell them chant Hare Krishna, follow four great principles? Can't we tell them Prabhupada's history, how Prabhupada went to America and preached? These kind of things we can preach. But if you go and start telling them Ashtakaliya Leela and Lalita Vishaka, because we don't have much realization in that. So we don't talk esoteric subjects. We can teach basic subject depending on the level of our understanding. Is it all right? Also, esoteric subjects, if we speak, it can come under ninth offense also. Because we are speaking to unqualified people and Neither we may be qualified, nor are they qualified to hear. So we don't speak esoteric subject, we speak basic subject. There's one question behind, you can give the mic. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. So, Prabhu, as you said, we should be compassionate enough in order to help others and not just do our own bhakti. So, in some cases, like when we try to indulge in that or when we try to help others, that's spoiling our mental peace and we are not able to do our own bhakti properly because of that. So, in that case, should we think that because of
Yeah,
my past.
when you try to preach, they will bring their problems to you. So, for example, your desire is to see that, say, you are preaching to a girl, she should take the mala, she should chant and wear tilak, wear kanti mala, come to temple and become a wonderful Krishna devotee and go back to Godhead. That's what you desire. But they say that, yes, I will become devotee, but first you solve my problem. And then they will bring their problem to you. Many of them bring nowadays, many of them have body having plenty of complications, diseases, and some of them have mental problems, some of them psychological problems. So when they bring it to you, sometimes you may wonder that, oh, so many problems they are dumping on me. This is not what I wanted. Correct, no? So in such a case, what to do? We can also take help of our seniors. So you have a mentor, Mataji, who is guiding you. In case you find it overwhelming, so you can take your junior girl to a senior lady mentor and say that, Maji, this person is too much to handle. Please kindly you handle this person. I can go and give mala, I can give books, I can give lecture, but handling their problems is not a cup of my tea. Then they can handle it because with with their level of seniority, maturity, and realization, they will give some direction to that girl to, come out of the problem. Is it all right?
Yes, Prabhu. But like this is in general, Prabhu. But if it's regarding specific person in our life, that we can't escape that situation, and for something like should we accept that thing or as a past deeds that we have to accept, and this is how we can become serious in
Is
Krishna
it coming from the
consciousness.
person whom you are preaching to?
Not actually preaching, but situations around that I cannot go out of that.
Correct. Say, for example, you are working in an office and there are people who are trouble creators in the office, colleagues, for example, and they may be in the same room. Like somebody is a chatterbox. He always keeps on talking useless, rubbish things, but I am in the same room in the office. One man came and told me, no, Swamiji, last 8 years I am working in the same job, same office, and this fellow is next to me only. He said, I have to always hear him. So, is it my karma that I have to tolerate this fellow? I am trying for transfer everywhere, but I am not able to. I told him he can use a earplug. So, yes, we all have to find out some solution when we are facing challenges from other people. See, you are not obliged to everybody around you. Huh? You see, you are obliged to your mother, father, and to one's brother, sister, or one's husband, wife. There is obligation. Whereas in the outside world, if somebody is creating trouble, you have freedom to disconnect from them. You can, if you find that somebody is not uplifting you, they are discouraging you, then you can keep distance. And distance, and Shastra say that upeksha you should do. Upeksha means keep away from them. And that will do good for you, good for them. Of course, you can keep away from them and pray for them. That we can pray for them. Like, from a distance, you can pray for them. If you come near, that is going to create some turbulence between both. Correct, no?
If it's family, Prabhu.
If it is in family, then let us assume that, say, you are a devotee and somebody is not a devotee in the family. They feel that you are becoming devotee is, creating trouble for them. They say that you are not studying or you are not working, you are not bringing enough money. Don't do this chanting or, don't go to temple. There are many relatives who do that, who behave like that. So what I am telling, I teach all the boys generally is be sympathetic to relatives. Because they are not aware of philosophy of Krishna consciousness like you are aware. They are not aware. If they were aware, probably they would be practicing as seriously as you. They are not aware. So we should be, and also their aggressive behavior towards you is a expression of their love for you. They think that is our daughter or our sister, like that. They think like that. They think they want to save you from trouble, but they don't know that Krishna consciousness is not trouble. It's the greatest freedom. So what we can do, many things we can do. Sometimes we can give them prasadam. Prasadam will slowly purify them. Sometimes you can make them meet some very mature senior devotee who by meeting whom their mindset may change. I can show you people, like in Bombay, one boy joined in 90s, full-time devotee. His mother gave advertisement in newspaper saying that this ISKCON people have taken away my son and all that. And 10 years later, she became a devotee. And she started chanting 16 rounds. And when she got initiation from her Guru Maharaj, she cried out that day, going to Guru Maharaj, said, Maharaj, I blasphemed ISKCON, I blasphemed all Vaishnavas. Will I be forgiven? And Maharaj said, why are you thinking like that? Don't worry. Now you have become initiated devotee now. Forget about the past, he told her. So how can a person dramatically change? You will see. What she was and what she became. So even those who apparently appear to be non-devotees now, eventually they may be devotees. So we don't call anybody as a non-devotee. We call everybody as a potential devotee. Potential devotee means they are hidden devotee, like a red hot coal hidden with ashes. You do, and then it ashes goes away. So dealing with parents, relatives, friends, teachers, colleagues who are not devotees, that is itself a subject in and of itself. It's a very important subject. There are various things we can do. So I can send, here is Madan Kumar Prabhu. I will send you an article, Prabhu, which you can share with Mataji. It's about an 8-10 page article on how to deal with different types of people. So I feel we can also take that for our students also, I think, in your Bhakti Vriksha groups also. You can share it with other leaders also. Because our devotees need some kind of training in tackling people who are not devotees. Yeah. All right? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare
Shri
Krishna.
Prabhupada ki, Bhakta Vrinda ki.